component of innovation. So you see the left side. Newness refers to the degree to which something is perceived as different from what existed before. So whether something is new and the degree to which it is new are subjective judgments influenced by relevant people and context. So what is considered new by one person can be considered a simple imitation or adaptation by another. So the question here is new for whom? So for example, your firm might try to apply technologies it masters in a new market. So to the firm, the technology are old, while to the environment, they are new. So here, environment means market, industry, country, and in particular, this offers significant opportunities to international firms, as what is known in one local market might be perceived as new in another. Your firm could also act as an imitator and adapt technologies that are already known elsewhere. So it is new to the company, but old to the market. Your firm could also develop innovations that are old for both, or you could develop innovations that are new both for yourself and for your environment. So the second key insight, when dealing with an innovation, a manager should carefully consider whether and how much the innovation is perceived as new by the organization and by the environment, or both, and then manage the innovation accordingly. Okay, so now let's consider the change components, so the right side of the definition of innovation. So change can be theoretically defined as the process of becoming different at individual, organizational, or social level. So from an innovation point of view, an important aspect is the intensity of the change as perceived by those experiencing it. This intensity can range from simple improvement that we call incremental innovations to full revolutions, usually called radical or disruptive innovations. On this graph, you can see that each S-curve represents a product performance over time. So here, incremental innovations relate to small changes, so improvements or modifications of the way things are done while keeping the general framework in place. So from a business point of view, it's business as usual. You improve your competitiveness by introducing very small changes in some aspect of the firm's management. They tend to occur frequently and are often perceived as low-risk initiatives. So for example, incremental innovations in shipping could relate to energy efficiency innovations or improving the design of the ship and so on. And you can see that these incremental innovations, they enable the S-curve to last longer over time. On the other hand, radical innovations relate to big changes, so major or structural modifications, new ways of doing things. They challenge the existing framework and they tend to happen infrequently and are often perceived as involving higher risk. So again, in the shipping industry, changes in a ship's propulsion system could be considered as radical innovations. So here you can see we could go from shipping using conventional fuels to battery-powered ships. So here we go from one S-curve to another. On this slide, you can see that incremental and radical innovation have very different characteristics. I will not go through them, but what is interesting is that they do not share the same limitations. Incremental innovations, they are risking obsolescence and being overtaken by new trends, while radical innovations, they are risking irrelevance and wasting resources by going too far too quickly. So again, here, the third key insight is that managing innovation means managing both newness and change, as I explained, and is also about changing people's perceptions and realities. But here we have kind of a small problem. Every time companies develop or adapt new innovations, they encounter change resistance. So change resistance is assumed to be around as long as people are involved in the processes. I can give you 2 examples. So for instance, when a new voyage of information system is implemented on a ship, you can have change resistance coming from the sea captains who feel that no technology can replace their expertise. Another example, so many ports have developed due to automation, so the need for manual work has decreased significantly. There you might have resistance to change coming from authorities such as the trade unions. So one of the main reasons firms fail managing innovation is that they underestimate the amount of change the innovations imply, and consequently the amount of time and energy required to make the changes happen. People need time and energy to be convinced to adapt innovations. That's why I told you that managing innovation is really about being convincing. So on the one hand, most people see change as unattractive and therefore not worth it. They suffer from loss aversion. They overestimate the cost of losing what they have today, and therefore they often prefer to stick to the status quo. They are asking you the question, is it worth changing? But on the other hand, they also see change as costly and risky, and therefore too difficult. They are uncertain about their ability to adopt unfamiliar ways of doing things. So they're asking you the question, okay, but is it easy to change? And all of this, the challenge is the same if you end users are organizations, because organizations, they have routines which allow them to make things simple, to reduce uncertainty, to facilitate coordination, and so on and so on. So abandoning the routines is often perceived as risky and costly. And again, that requires time and energy to convince them. Okay, so I will now invite you again to go to menti.com. And answer this question. How can you facilitate the change implied by an innovation and facilitate its adoption? So you as a company, how can you convince your potential adopters to adopt your innovation? What approach will you use? How will you convince them? So again, I will wait a minute for you to give me answers. So you can see the code is still on the screen if you need it. Okay, we will wait 20 more seconds. Okay. So valid arguments, convincing presentation, marketing, yes. Support the change, check what customer wants, yes, really important. Using the network, awareness raising campaign, high energy, make it necessary, talk to customer, yes. Make good analysis, talk to potential customer, proactive approach, yes. Okay, again, a lot of interesting answers. Okay, so now in the next slide, I'm going to present you the drivers we usually use. So it will be a repetition of what some of you have shared with us right now, and I hope it will give you some new ideas as well. So the first way to facilitate the change implied by an innovation and to drive its adoption is to make change worthwhile. So that relates to the newness component of an innovation. This means convincing potential adopters that the new way of doing things is more attractive than the status quo, and it will bring them significant benefit and advantage. So in theory, it might be obvious, but from a marketing point of view, guessing how people will value an innovation often remains challenging in practice. As you said, using Menti, some of you said marketing, network. So here that relates to that driver. So this can be done using communication channels, dissemination, endorsements. This can also be done using network effects. So as a reminder, network effects, that refers to the situation where the value of a product, a service, or a platform depends on the number of users who leverage it. So a given user will get more value from a product as more users join the same network. So some of you have mentioned that in using Menti. Then a second way to facilitate adoption is to make it easy to change. So that relates to the change component of innovation. First driver, compatibility. So the perceived costs related to the adoption of an innovation will be reduced if users are convinced that they actually do not have to change much in order to adopt it. So an adoption will be quickly adopted if it's compatible with the existing standard, infrastructure, regulations, cultures, and routines of people and organizations involved. Yeah, so minimize the switching cost. Second driver is the perceived complexity of your innovation. So you should make it easy to understand. Of course, you should disrupt your competitors, but you should not disrupt your customers. Third and fourth driver are triability and observability. So the perceived risks related to an adoption will be limited if users can see themselves using it. So this means that adoption and diffusion will be fostered by triability. So if they have the possibility to experiment it, and observability. So if they have the possibility to see whether others are adopting it or not. So last key insight for that part of the webinar. It's really important for you to identify the key internal and external stakeholders linked to your innovations. So here there is also internal, because you might also to convince some part of your team, some departments that are not aware of what you're doing. Secondly, you need to understand what will make adoption both worth it and not too difficult or risky for each group. And then, of course, you need to adapt your innovation accordingly. Okay, so if you do not have any questions, we will stop here, take a 5-minute break, but please turn on your mic if you want to ask anything. What time is it? 20. Okay, so we can meet at 10:33. Or yeah, I'm also here to ask questions during the break if you want. Yes, Vedran, you raised your hand.
Hi, Celine. Just a short question. If there are no questions, maybe it would be better to move on with the presentation, or just not to lose any focus.
Yeah, okay, that works for me as well. I will start again sharing my presentation. Okay, so in addition to this notion of innovation management, we also think that the starting point of any good meeting or workshop on business model innovation should be a shared understanding of what a business model actually is. So any organization needs a business model concept that everybody understands, where everybody starts from the same point and talks about the same thing. So today we will use the business model canvas that shows the logic of how a company intends to make money through 9 building blocks that you can see on the slide. So how it will work, we will go through the 9 blocks together, and after each block, I will ask you to complete the canvas with the answers you already have for your innovation. So take a piece of paper or open a Word document to take your notes. And for those companies that had to fill out the business case template, you are strongly encouraged to use these 9 blocks to answer this question 10 that refer to business model identification and development. Okay, so if everybody's ready, let's get started. So the customer segment building block defines the different groups of people or organizations an enterprise aims to reach and serve. Customers are the heart of any business model, and without customers, no company can survive for long. So in order to better satisfy customers, your company may group them into distinct segments with common needs, common behavior, or other attributes. There are different type of customer segments. I can give you some example. So mass markets, there are business models who focus on mass markets. They don't distinguish between different customer segments. They focus on one large group of customers with broadly similar needs and problems. Another example could be niche markets. So business models targeting niche markets, they have specific and specialized customer segments. And their business models is tailored to their specific requirements of this niche market. So here I can give you 30 seconds, around 30 seconds, for you to answer these questions that are very important. So for whom are you creating value? And who are your most important customers? Okay, let's continue. So the value proposition that describes the bundle of products and services that create value for a specific customer segment. So that's the reason why customers turn to your company over another. it solves a customer problem, or it satisfies a customer need. Some value propositions may be innovative or represent a new or disruptive or radical offer. Other may be similar to existing market offers. So the questions here, what are you offering them? Do they care? And which one of their problems are you helping to solve? So I can give you also some elements while you writing down your answers. So some elements that can contribute to the value proposition is the newness, the performance, the customization, the design, the brand, the price. So again, I will give you some time to answer these questions. Okay, let's move on. So the channels. That describes how a company communicates with and reaches its customer segments to deliver the value proposition we talked about earlier. So your channels are the customer touch points that play a very important role in the customer experience. They are very useful. They have several roles. They can raise awareness among customers about your products and services. They can help customers evaluate your company's value proposition. They allow your customers to purchase your specific products and services. They deliver the value propositions, and they can also provide a post-purchase customer support. And of course, there are different kind of channels. Are there your own channels? Are there your partners? Is it your sales force? Is it your web sales? Is it your own stores, your partner stores, a wholesaler? So here again, I will give you some time to answer these questions. Through which channels do your customer segments want to be reached? How are your channels integrated? And what kind of channels do you have? Maybe I can ask some of you if you found the answers to these questions. Igor, are you with us now? Have you managed to find answers?
Hi, Salon. I'm very sorry, but I have some other tasks at the moment, some critical.
Okay, no problem. Vinco, are you here with us? Okay, let's move on then. Okay, customer relationships. So that describes the type of relationships your company will have with specific customer segments. So you should clarify these relationships to establish with each of these customer segments. They can be helpful to acquire customer, for customer retention, or to boosting sales. So here are the questions. What relationships are you establishing with each segment? How costly are they? And here you can see also that there are several kinds of relationships. Is it personal assistance, which is based on human interaction, so the customer can communicate with a real customer representative to help during the sales. This can be done through call centers, by email, or at the point of sales. Could also be self-service. So in this type of relationship, your company maintains no direct relationship, but provides all the necessary means for customers to help themselves. Then we have also communities. So online communities that allow users to exchange knowledge about some products and solve each other's problem. And even co-creation. So more companies are going beyond this traditional customer-vendor relationship, and they co-create value with customers. So for example, when you ask your customers to review your products, and that creates value for future potential customers. Some companies also engage customers to assist with the design of new and innovative products. So that's also a different kind of relationship. Okay, so I will let you give you some more time to answer the questions, and we'll move to the next building block after. Okay, moving on. The revenues, of course. So they represent the cash a company generates from each customer segment. So your company must ask itself for what value is each customer segment truly willing to pay. And if you successfully answer that questions, that allows your firm to generate one or more revenue streams from each customer segments. So here the questions are, for what value are your customers really willing to pay? How would they prefer to pay? And of course, there are also several ways of generate revenue streams. So for example, asset sales, which is the most widely understood revenue. So selling ownership rights to a physical product. Usage fee, so generated by the use of a particular service. Subscription fee, so generated by selling continuous access to a service like gym membership. Lending, renting, leasing. Advertising, licensing. That's also the ways to generate revenue. So I'm sure you know about that building block. Is there anyone who wants to share with us their answer? Okay, then we'll move on to the next one. Key resources, again, very important. So that describes the most important assets required to make your business model work. You can create and offer a value proposition, you can reach your market, you can maintain your relationship, and of course you can earn a revenue thanks to the key resources. They can be physical, financial, intellectual, or human. So here you can ask yourself the questions, what resources do you need for you to deliver your value propositions? What are the most important? And we will see later from who you should get them. Hi, Baba, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say like the key resources. Now we are talking about shipping industry and zero emission vessels. So it's important to map which resources you need in your team to be able to deliver the value proposition, the product and service you are planning. And sometimes this can if you're in telecommunications, then you need marketing, but maybe here you need some other key resources, and often this can be IP, intellectual property, or something else. So it's important to kind of be aware of all those building blocks Solène is talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Key activities. So the most important thing a company must do to make its business model work. The most important actions. So like key resources, they are required to create and offer this value proposition. So they can be again separated in 3 categories, and you can probably identify yourself to one of them. So is it production, which relates to designing, making, delivering a product? Is it problem solving? So coming up with new solutions to individual customer problems. So that usually refers to consultancies, company, hospitals, that kind of company. And then platform network. So networks, matchmaking platforms, software, even brands, they can function as a platform. So for example, eBay's, their business model requires that the company continually develop and maintain its platform on its website. Okay, let's move to the next one. The key partners. So that describes the network of suppliers and partners that make your business model work. So your companies should build partnership for many reasons, and they're becoming an important piece of many business models. You can create alliance to optimize your business model, to reduce risk, to acquire resource. So here it's really important for you to know what are the reasons for creating partnerships. Yeah, so you can answer that question. Yes, Barbara.
Yeah, I think like all those ZEVinnovation products or services we are talking about, they are very dependent on partnerships, and the ZEVinnovation platform is trying to connect parties within value chain so that your product service can succeed. So it's important to know who do you need to partner up with, to be aware of it, and where in the value chain and who in the value chain. So that's one of key things that you should be aware.
Yeah. Okay, and then the last building block, the cost structure. So all the costs incurred to operate your business model, creating and delivering value, maintaining your relationship, generating revenues, all incur costs. So naturally enough, costs should be minimized in every business model. But low-cost structures are more important to some business models than to others. Therefore, we can also distinguish between two broad classes of business model. The cost-driven, so the cost-driven business models, they focus on minimizing costs wherever possible, and the value-driven business, so some companies are less concerned with the cost implication and instead focus on the value creation. So premium value proposition and high degree of personalized service usually have that kind of cost structure. So for example, luxury hotels is an example. But in reality, many business models fall in between these two extremes. So you should not necessarily choose one or the other. And we reach the end of this part. We covered the 9 building blocks. So as you can see here, the 9 building blocks, they form the basis for this template, which we call business model canvas. You can easily find it online. And as you saw, it helps visualize what is important, and it forces you to address the key areas you need to address. It can also help you to address specific risks or acquire more information about competitors, about niche market, about cost, about customer segments. So it's a really useful tool. Okay, so I hope this webinar was interesting for you and that all the topics we've covered will help you transform your idea, your innovation into an organized strategy and an actionable business plan. So now, if you have any questions you would like to ask, I'll be happy to answer them. And if there are no questions, I will invite you to go to menti.com one more time and answer the last 2 questions. So please raise your hand if you have any question. Otherwise, you can answer this one. What is your main takeaway from the webinar? Okay, we got 2 answers so far. Let's wait a bit more. Okay, thank you for those who answered the question, and we can go directly to the next one. Do you have any feedback on the webinar? Okay. I guess we will finish here. So it went actually faster than planned, a bit less than 1 hour. We presented some key concepts about innovation management and business model innovation. I hope I didn't go too fast, and I hope it helped. So thank you for your time. We know you all have busy agendas, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send us an email. Yes, and we wish you a nice week. So thank you for participating.
Thank you, Solin, for this for your presentation, and thank you all for participating today. The record of the webinar and the presentations will be available on the website and on our YouTube channel. Thank you.
Good. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.